Before we dive into the story, a small request, please subscribe to our channel. That would help me a lot, and you are free to change your mind anytime later. Now let's begin the story. The alarm blared, jolting me from my half-asleep stupor in the dimly lit bunk room. Another routine fire drill. I groaned, rubbing the sleep from my eyes as the rest of the crew scrambled out of their bunks. "Move it, fellas." Cap's gruff voice cut through the commotion. "Simulated structure fire at the training facility. Let's make it snappy." I swung my legs over the edge of the bunk, my mind still foggy from the restless night before. Talia had been acting strange lately, working late into the night on some big charity event. I shook my head, pushing the thoughts aside as I suited up. The roar of the engine and the wail of the sirens usually filled me with a sense of purpose, but today, something felt off. My phone vibrated in my pocket, the name Honey Buns flashing across the screen. A sinking feeling twisted in my gut. Honey Buns was Talia's old nickname for me, back when our love burned bright and passionate. Now, it felt like a cruel joke. I ignored the call, focusing on the task at hand. We arrived at the training facility, the thick scent of smoke filling the air as we geared up. Cap's voice crackled over the radio, barking orders and safety protocols. I tuned him out, my mind drifting back to Talia's odd behavior. The past week had been a whirlwind of late nights and excuses. She claimed the new charity event was a massive undertaking, but something didn't sit right. Talia had never been one for philanthropic endeavors, at least not to this extent. My phone vibrated again, snapping me back to reality. I glanced at the screen, the same unknown number taunting me. Against my better judgment, I answered, my voice gruff. "Yeah." A breathless female voice, laced with panic, spilled out. "Please, you have to help me. Talia's trapped in a burning building downtown." My blood ran cold. Talia wasn't supposed to be downtown. She was supposed to be at home, safe and sound. Panic clawed at my chest, but years of training kicked in. I ended the call and raced towards Cap, the alarm for a real fire blaring in the background.
Cap,
"We've got a situation downtown. Abandoned warehouse on the docks. Possible civilian trapped inside." Cap's eyes narrowed, but he nodded, issuing orders to the crew. We piled into the trucks, the sirens wailing as we tore through the city streets. The scene was chaos. Flames billowed from the broken windows of the dilapidated warehouse, casting an eerie orange glow over the docks. Thick plumes of smoke choked the air, making it difficult to breathe. I charged towards the building, fueled by a potent cocktail of terror and fury. Talia was in there, and I had to get her out, no matter the cost. "Jim, wait." Cap's frantic shouts fell on deaf ears as I plunged into the inferno, my adrenaline spiking. The heat was intense, searing my lungs with every breath. I pushed forward, searching every burning corner, calling out Talia's name. Debris crumbled around me, but I pressed on, desperate to find her. Just as hope began to dwindle, I stumbled upon a hidden room, the door barely hanging on its hinges. Inside, a single figure lay unconscious, smoke filling the air. Relief washed over me as I scooped the woman into my arms and fought my way back to the exit. But as I emerged into the cool night air, my relief turned to dread. It wasn't Talia. "Jim, get out of there now." Cap's voice boomed over the crackling flames. I snapped back to reality and rushed towards the exit, cradling the unknown woman against my soot-stained turnout coat. The cool night air hit my face like a slap, the adrenaline coursing through my veins dulling the sting of smoke in my lungs. Paramedics swarmed us, gently taking the woman from my arms and loading her onto a stretcher. I stood there, dazed, as the crew doused the last of the flames. "Who is she?" Cap's gruff voice cut through the chaos. I shook my head, my mind racing. "I don't know, Cap. I thought she was Talia." Cap's brow furrowed, but before he could respond, a faint groan caught our attention. The woman was coming to. I rushed to her side, my heart pounding in my chest. "Ma'am, can you hear me? What's your name?" Her eyes fluttered open, and she gasped for air, her gaze filled with fear. "Emily," she rasped. "My name is Emily." A chill ran down my spine. Emily was the name of Talia's best friend. The pieces started to fall into place, but the picture they formed made no sense. "Emily," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "what were you doing in that building?" She sucked in a ragged breath, her eyes darting around wildly. "Talia, she set the fire. She wanted me dead." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Talia, my wife, the woman I loved more than life itself, tried to kill her friend? It couldn't be true. Why would she do that? I demanded, my voice rising. Emily flinched, tears streaming down her soot-stained cheeks. We were both having an affair with the same man, the owner of the charity she works for. The revelation hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Talia, my Talia, was cheating on me, and not just with one man, but with the same man as her supposed best friend. Fury, sharp and cold, replaced the initial panic. The late nights, the sudden career change, it all made sense now. Talia wasn't a victim. She was the mastermind behind this twisted plot. I stumbled back, my head spinning. How could she do this to me? To us? "Jim, you all right?" Cap's voice cut through the fog of betrayal. I nodded, swallowing the bitter taste in my mouth. "Yes, Cap, I'm okay." But I wasn't okay. I was far from it. My world had just been turned upside down, and the woman I thought I knew was nothing more than a stranger consumed by her own lies. The next few days passed in a blur. Emily was released from the hospital, and the police launched an investigation into the fire. But Talia was nowhere to be found. I went through the motions at work, my mind constantly replaying the events of that fateful night. The looks of pity from my crew members only added salt to the wound. Then, one evening, as I sat alone in our once happy home, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Talia standing on the doorstep, her eyes puffy and her makeup smeared. "Jim," she croaked, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry." I stared at her, my heart hardening with each passing second. This woman, this liar, had tried to kill her friend and destroy everything we'd built together. "Sorry," I spat, my anger finally bubbling to the surface. "You tried to murder someone, Talia, and not just anyone, your best friend." She flinched, her hands trembling. "I know, and I can explain." "Explain what?" I cut her off, my voice dripping with venom. "How you've been cheating on me with some scumbag charity owner. How you set that fire, risking innocent lives, all because of your twisted jealousy." Talia's lip quivered, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for it to go this far. I love you, Jim. You have to believe me." I let out a bitter laugh, the sound foreign to my own ears. "Love? You don't know the meaning of the word. The woman I loved died a long time ago, replaced by a twisted, deceitful stranger." Her sobs grew louder, but I felt no sympathy, only a hollow emptiness where my love for her once resided. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "And don't ever come back." Talia froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. But after a few moments, she turned and walked away, her cries echoing down the empty street. I watched her go, my heart as cold as the flames that had nearly taken an innocent life. In that moment, I made a decision. Talia would pay for her betrayal, but not in the way she expected. I had a plan, a unique kind of revenge that would burn her world to the ground, just as she had burned mine. In the days that followed, my rage simmered, fueled by Talia's betrayal. I went through the motions at work, my mind constantly churning, plotting my revenge. It couldn't be a direct confrontation that would give her the satisfaction of seeing the pain she'd caused me. No, this had to be something more subtle, more insidious. A slow burn that would consume her world until there was nothing left but ashes. The answer came to me during a routine inspection at a local event venue. As I pored over the building's fire safety regulations, an idea began to take shape. Talia's charity was planning a lavish grand opening at an historic mansion, and I knew just how to derail it. Using an anonymous tip line, I reported a litany of violations, faulty wiring, blocked exits, and a host of other issues that would require extensive inspections and repairs. The reports trickled in, each one more damning than the last, until the fire department had no choice but to descend on the mansion like a swarm of locusts. Talia was oblivious to my machinations. too busy spinning her own web of lies. She painted herself as a hero, claiming she'd alerted the authorities about the fire that nearly killed Emily. Local news outlets ate it up, praising her bravery and dedication to the community. I watched from the sidelines, a bitter taste in my mouth as Talia basked in the adulation, playing the perfect victim. Little did she know, her house of cards was about to come crumbling down. Then, the real blow came. The fire department, impressed by my anonymous reports, offered me a promotion, fire inspector. With this newfound authority, I could dig deeper into Talia's sham of a charity, exposing the rot at its core. I pored over financial records, uncovering a web of discrepancies, missing funds, and connections to dubious organizations. The evidence mounted, painting a picture of corruption and deceit that would make even the most hardened cynic blush. As the news of the investigation broke, the charity crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. Sponsors pulled out, donations dried up, and the once lavish mansion stood empty, a monument to Talia's deceit. And Talia? She became a pariah, a liar and a cheat in the eyes of the community she'd so desperately tried to impress. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled, leaving her exposed and alone. But my revenge wasn't complete. There was one final twist, one last ember to stoke the flames of her downfall. Using my connections within the fire department, I uncovered the true depths of the charity owner's corruption. His entire operation was little more than an elaborate web of manipulation and fraud, preying on the goodwill of others for his own gain. With the evidence in hand, I made sure it found its way into the right hands. The man was arrested, his empire collapsing around him like a house of cards in the wind. Through it all, I never confronted Talia directly. The public shame, the loss of everything she'd built on lies, was punishment enough. I filed for divorce, the silence in our once bustling home a stark contrast to the inferno that had once burned within me. Months passed, and the ashes of Talia's downfall settled. I thought I'd finally found peace, but one day, as I sat in the firehouse, a familiar voice shattered the silence. "Jim." I turned to see Talia standing in the doorway, a shadow of her former self. Her eyes were sunken, her clothes disheveled, and her once vibrant spirit had been extinguished, consumed by the flames of her own making. "Talia," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. She took a tentative step forward, her hands trembling. "Jim, please. I know what I did was unforgivable, but you have to believe me when I say I'm sorry. I never meant for things to go this far." I studied her, this woman who had once been the love of my life, now reduced to a desperate shell, consumed by her own lies and deceit. "Sorry," I let out a bitter laugh. "Talia, the only thing burning here is the life you built on falsehoods. You tried to kill your best friend, all for the sake of some twisted affair and your own greed." Tears streamed down her cheeks, but I felt no sympathy, only a hollow emptiness where my love for her once resided. "I loved you, Talia," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But that woman died a long time ago, replaced by a stranger consumed by her own flames." She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand, silencing her. "Leave," I said, my tone brooking no argument. "And don't ever come back. The only thing left between us are the ashes of what we once had, and those burned out a long time ago." Talia froze, her eyes wide with disbelief and despair. But after a few moments, she turned and walked away, her sobs echoing through the empty firehouse like the dying embers of a once-raging inferno. I watched her go, a strange sense of finality washing over me. My revenge was complete, and Talia had been left with the ashes of her own destruction, a fitting consequence for a love that had gone up in smoke. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.